All right, Nick, ready?
Yeah, I'm
Jeff,
born.
ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, let's do this.
Freshly picked and ready for consumption. Here comes another round of the Radishcast.
Here we go. I'm your fearless commissioner and primary news source, all baked into one. Along with me for the first time and every time are my
Illusion.
co-hosts Jeff McLaurin and Nick Spill Stoll. Let's turn some rumors into facts. So just getting started
Got
here.
him.
So this is going to be the new podcast for the Husky League. I don't know, Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about kind of how we started this, how the conversation went?
Yeah, so actually I think it was probably about I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. We were all sitting around my table having conversations, one or two drinks, nothing out of the ordinary. And
One or two.
Yeah, that's all. We had a conversation that lasted for probably 4 hours on what ifs, this and that, and got us thinking. And it was, hey, we should try to get together and do a podcast and talk about something that we're all used to and we all love. And that was fantasy football. So Here we are a few months later for the first time rolling this bad boy out.
Yeah, it's obviously, Nick, this is going to be a pretty regular occurrence. What are you looking forward to, I guess, the most out of this?
Definitely the shit talk that's going to occur. I'm going to throw a lot of people under the bus.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
That's going to be a pretty regular thing. So
and us getting together too.
Yeah,
just sitting here and chatting.
Absolutely. So either you guys got anything else? Otherwise, we'll jump into segment number 1.
Hit it, Mike.
Let's go.
Baby watch.
So this is going to be a regular segment that we pull out and take a look at who's having babies. So I don't know, Nick, you want to get us started on what we got going in the baby world?
Yeah, I texted Joe Tom last night to see what was going on with him. And I quote, he said, "She's popping," when I asked how Kayla was in the baby.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to lead to some distractions for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
That can't
Yeah.
help you. There's no way that situation goes well as far as fantasy football is concerned. Jeff, you got any baby updates for us?
Yeah, last Saturday, in what I think was an alleged attempt to kind of throw the taint ticklers off, Cooley decided to drop a very high quality video to the group. And, it was later confirmed by Kamo that it was recorded on a Nintendo DS. He did get confirmation to me on that. So thank you, Kamo, for doing that. But, in this video, it showed Cooley and his very lovely wife expecting a beautiful baby girl. So not only did he drop this on Spill's head the day before the game started, he more importantly, and I think this is probably the biggest thing we want to talk about, is he now qualifies to be able to buy and wear the Nike Crocs that John Lamer so desperately wants to have. So, it was a well done video, Cooley, and we're all excited for you, and we'll definitely be checking in, in the next upcoming weeks.
Yeah, and honestly, the Crocs are a big part, and also the clear effect it had on Nick's ability to win that game, which we'll get into in a little bit.
About it. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
So
he's definitely going to have to tell us how those bad boys ride.
That he will. So, on the note of Cooley handing out an ass kicking, let's jump into our next segment.
This here's the Radish Recap.
So we're on to the Radish recap, where we take a look at all the games from last week. So hopping right on in, we'll take a look at the first game on our slate. I am left-handed, and Coach Kyle Monroe taking on the SCLSU Mud Dogs and Troy Hecht. So Troy came into this game as a 5-point favorite, but actually only ended up being able to pull it out by a half a point, 102.68 to 102.18. So a really tightly contested game there. Nick, what are you seeing in that game that led to that?
Well, I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes here, 36 points. That's just dominant performance that I don't think I am left-handed could come back from, obviously, because he lost by such a close margin. But then I'm looking, that leads me into the bum of the week.
Oof.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire only getting 4.6 points. I don't know how you pull that off after Kansas City just going off on the Jets.
And Nick snuck the bum of the week in there on me. I wasn't ready for it, but
Nick's bum of the week.
Spare any change, sir? No, off.
This one hits a little close to home too. I have Clyde in my other league. I paid $83 in the auction for, and he has just been disappointing, really. So yeah, the 4.6. I thought Le'Veon Bell was going to do a little bit more to take volume away, but shoot, Le'Veon only scored 5.32. So
yeah, it was just a rough game for anyone who wasn't Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. All the other receivers had okay games, but Jeff, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Troy tried to make it a little interesting by his Rich Rod play, getting a total of 0 points there.
Tough
going into that. That's not a terrible idea, but definitely was.
Well, Goddard was coming back that week too, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't pivot away.
Yeah, that was a bold move, Troy.
But I look at KMO's team and Nick Foles as your backup QB right now. That's
tough.
You're not going to win very many games starting Nick Foles at quarterback.
Yeah, and honestly, when you look at KMO, like, you're not going to sit Clyde. You're not going to, he's a player that's going to be in your lineup no matter what. But the Cole Beasley start, there's 3 players on his bench that would have made the difference over a Cole Beasley, and he could have moved his players around to get him in. So definitely an opportunity, definitely a missed opportunity there.
Bad coaching decision, or
I would say so.
Oh.
So jumping on to
Troy's been on a hot streak here lately, so
No, he kicked my ass a couple weeks ago.
He just overtook me for the division lead, unfortunately, but a little more on that later. So hopping into our next game, we got Jay's Juggernauts and Coach Jeff Gregory, who's with us today, taking a loss at the hands of the Southwestern Bandicoots and Kyle Stankowski. Now, Kyle came into this game as actually a 25-point favorite, so it was supposed to be a blowout. Not quite so. 92-90 victory, so about a 2-point win there for Mr. Stankowski. And Nick, I know we got quite a few texts from Jeff leading up to the late game that he needed 3 points from Amari Cooper, and he got 1. So how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, that'll hurt. I thought for sure Amari Cooper. I mean, Dallas with their 3rd string quarterback in there, it makes it a little tough, but three points? That's just brutal.
Jeff,
Gallup actually had a decent game there too, so I was surprised Cooper didn't
Jeff, what do you got to say for yourself after such a tough defeat?
The text message I sent you guys, I had a feeling going into that game that he was not going to pull it off for me, and I ended up going to bed before it was over, waking up.
That's your problem.
Disappointed, and it didn't surprise me. But all I got to say is Stank got lucky on this one. I look at this recap here. Tua didn't perform like he's going to for me in the future. Jacobs got stuffed at the 2-yard line on 3 straight plays. If he gets in there, that's an automatic win. If I just stick with Evan Ingram instead of Gesicki, I pull off this win. Or even if I stick with Matt Ryan, it's just there's a multitude of things that happen that to Stink's benefit, he pulled her off. So
I gotta say it's tough to go in there with the Dolphins stack of Tua and Gesicki, especially with a rookie coming in, and go against your chalky players like Matt Ryan and Evan Ingram, and it did not work at all.
Yeah. It did not work.
Coming out of the bye, I was hoping they'd be a little bit more impressive, but who knew that Miami had the best defense in the league and special teams?
Apparently.
Yeah, right.
So going from a pair of close games, we'll take a trip down the least close game of the week with the Aaron Rodgers football team and Coach Tony Fisher taking a hard loss to Benny and the Jets and Coach Ben Stelzer. Coach Ben was a 20-point favorite coming into this week, but nearly doubled up the football team here with a 145-73 win. That's painful to watch, Jeff. Is there any silver lining here for a guy like Tony?
For a guy like Tony, I'm looking at his roster. He's got some nice players. DeAndre Swift definitely didn't perform. Justin Jefferson didn't perform. Mark Andrews, all these guys really underperformed, but they're young players. He's got Josh Allen, had a rough week. I think Tony is set for a good future. And, really one thing I do want to note is anyone going against Dalvin Cook last week was going to be in a rough standing. So Benny getting Cook out there at 4 touchdowns, there's not much Tony can do at that point.
Yeah, and there wasn't much Tony was going to do there with Travis Fulgham, his waiver wire ad being one of his best players on the week. But Nick, I guess anything else you saw from Ben that really propelled him over the top? Obviously, the highest scoring team on the week.
Yeah, like Jeff said, Dalvin Cook just absolutely going off against Green Bay. And I think we can take a quote out from that our group message for our league. Stankowski saying that Green Bay has one of the toughest rush defenses. And he could not have been proved more wrong last week.
It did not appear that way with Dalvin having his best game of the year against him.
Green Bay's 32nd against the rush, opposing running backs. So
yeah, well, honestly, that game was just so terrible to watch that I just want to get off of it. So we're gonna move on from the football team's dismantling, and on to one that's gonna hit personally to a different member of the staff here, Grizzly Adams and Coach Alex Cooley taking down the Taint Ticklers and Coach Nick Stoll. So Cooley came in as a 10-point favorite, covered that by a little bit with the 106-90 victory. Jeff, when you got to talk to Nick, what are you saying to him? You blaming him or you patting Cooley on the back?
When I look at these scores here, I look at Nick's team and I'm like, Russell will win you most games, Kamara will win you most games, but Nick, you got nothing from anyone else. I mean, your next highest was that's what it was.
That's it right there.
Your next highest was Shepard. I know you had a few guys on injury and out, but I mean, it's a good win for Cooley at a good time to play Corey Davis and Travis Kelce. Kelce, I want to highlight here right now as a guy that scored 20 points this week, and he has potential later on in the section to be highlighted again, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and honestly, Kelce seems to be one of the only tight ends you're happy you started every single week. There hasn't been another guy that's put up more consistently. Cooley taking advantage of Mike Davis's swan song here, with McCaffrey coming back. I don't know that we're going to see much more Mike Davis. Not impossible, but not likely. So I don't know, Nick, you got any thing to help you get out of bed the next morning? Any other words of wisdom coming out of this defeat?
Yeah, I'm going to defend myself and say it was more my fault, to be honest. Not my fault, but my team didn't perform. But I was well. So I had Gibson on bye, I had DJ on bye. So I'm starting 2 freaking tight ends, and one of them's named Jimmy Graham. So that tells you all need it. Yeah. Galladay getting hurt with 0 points. It's tough to win like that. And Gallup as your second highest leading receiver after the year he's had. So Malcolm Brown in my second. It was a tough week for the Ticklers.
It really was. But, this goes to show you, those teams that came out of the year blasting, Nick started out the year 4-0, really, really playing strong. And now bye weeks are starting to hit. You're starting to see, maybe the teams that aren't so deep aren't performing quite as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on that moving forward.
I do think going forward though, Cooley, his team is one you probably want to target and want to be playing later in the week. weeks.
Yeah.
With that Mike Davis.
McCaffrey coming back.
With Mike Davis gone, that RB2 spot is going to be pretty rough for Mr. Alexander D. Cooley. And I do want to just mention that, despite pulling a win off here, Cooley is a bitch by definition, so it's a tough one to overcome.
I've heard that rumor, and I think I can confirm it. So.
Yeah, so sliding on to our next game, we got Lick McCaff and My Dak by Mr. Coach Jordan Chartier, naming his team after all of his injured players. And Ball is Life
strategy.
And Coach John Lamers. So Coach Lamers came into this one as a 13-point favorite, more than covered it with a 132-93 win. Obviously, John really got this one done with just not having any real duds on his team. Metcalf balled out. He had some good games, but really it was just consistency across the board. A lot of 10s, 15-point games from just about everybody. Nick, what else are you seeing as far as something that maybe John did that helped lead him to victory here?
Well, you look at Zach Moss having 2 touchdowns and 20 points. You don't expect that. I mean, after this whole year, I don't expect it going forward, to be honest with you, but maybe it's his time to shine. But yeah, DK Metcalf is a freaking beast. That guy is going to be good for a long time. That's a good pick by him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on the other side of the ball, obviously at one win on the season, Coach Chartier is not having the greatest year here. Jeff, any words of wisdom for Coach Chartier moving forward? Anything to say?
I mean, it looks like his trade for Marvin Jones with you, Mike, was a benefit this week. He did. That was his highest scoring points.
Especially with Galladay going out again now. So Marvin Jones going to get some extra looks. I'm starting to kick myself on that one.
Well, think about Stafford's on the COVID list, though. So I do not think their offense is going to look very good.
But he tested negative today. As long as he tests negative tomorrow, he'll still play. So still a chance there. I'm relying on Stafford in another league, unfortunately. So
that is very unfortunate.
The only thing I think about Jordan's team right now is, and we've all touched on it, is he's been just riddled with injuries here. And, he's got a few guys coming back with Aaron Jones potentially this week and McCaffrey. So I think there's better weeks ahead of Jordan. Unlike Cooley, I think, you wanted to be playing Jordan earlier these weeks with all these injuries. So
absolutely. And yeah, like you say, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon, but by the time this gets out to the team, I think we're going to see that Aaron Jones suited up tonight and played a little bit. So curious to see how that goes, but we'll see if that helps Mr. Chartier get an extra win. Moving on to our last recap is Old Man Joe and Coach Joe Thomas handing yours truly, the exalted Archduke Fish, a loss here. And this one was painful. I came in as a 10-point favorite. Joe took a 16-point win, 100-84. Going into the end of that late game, it really looked like I was going to pull it off. Looked like there was no way. And then in the last 5 minutes of all of their respective games, Brandon Ayuk got a touchdown. James Robinson had a couple catches. Keenan Allen had a couple catches. A.J. Brown, all of them right at the end. And that game flipped. I guess I'll hand this over to you guys and let you guys rip on me a little bit because I really deserve it after this.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I just got to say, you're not going to win very many games with your 2 running backs, Taylor and Elliott, scoring less than 12 points. I mean,
collectively,
correct. You had some guys on your roster here that have been putting up big numbers, Lockett, Thielen, Higgins is kind of coming on strong here. And really the only person that did well for you is Robert Woods, which, he's a boomer bust kind of player too. So I think you got better days ahead of you, Mike. I do like the David Carr quarterback play. It didn't work out for you really this week, but
that was a windy game, tough game.
Yeah, he's a chalky player.
I was thinking that was going to be a really high scoring game, Vegas and Cleveland.
Yeah, it was
17-6.
It was about 40-mile-an-hour winds and snowing for half of it, so I think that played into it. I had Daniel Carlson as kicker, and I don't know if you saw the clip of him about halfway to the goalpost. That thing took a hard L toward the sideline, so that doesn't help the passing game. Nick, any other pile-ons you want to throw on? Get your digs in while you can.
Yeah, I mean, you sent out that text in the group message talking shit about Joe scoring. What was it? Negative points and had midway
Jared
through.
Goff had a solid -5 through about 3/4 of the game. I was feeling
Yeah,
good.
that's gotta hurt. The
Yeah.
shit talk came back to haunt you
I,
there.
I typically talk shit thinking that it will propel me to victory. It did not work this week.
Apparently,
More times than not, it does though.
Usually it does.
Yeah, Keenan Allen I think he's gonna be really good with Herbert going forward. So, yeah, I actually tried to talking with him last night about him being daddy and his new baby coming. I was trying to get Keenan Allen, but no dice. He wanted too much.
Too steep, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how that plays out over the next couple weeks. But so now we're wrapped up with last week's matchups. Let's move on to a little special segment here, courtesy of one of our co-hosts.
Jeff's worst coach of the week.
So Jeff's worst coach of the week is a little segment run by Jeff where he gets to tell us which one of the league coaches didn't quite perform the way they should have. Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
You know, in my extensive research this week, I had looked at Tony pretty hard just with his low-scoring game, getting destroyed. But I kept circling back to, really anyone who played Dalvin Cook this week probably would have taken the loss. So it really saddens me, and I hate to say it, but what I kept coming back to for the worst coach of the week was myself at Jay's Juggernauts. Wow. There's a few decisions I made, and the top two being, like you mentioned, Mike, moving off of Matt Ryan and Evan Ingram. Had I just stuck to my guns like I have been for the rest of the last couple weeks, I would have walked away with a victory. And so, that's I had to start this segment off right, and to be the worst coach of the week the first week of the segment, I'm feeling all right about that. I don't expect I'll be on here much, if ever, again.
No,
so
strong words, a little bit of a self burn there with the giving yourself the not award. What's the opposite of an award? Dunce cap.
Dunce cap.
So that's Jeff's worst coach of the week. Probably going to be a pretty regular recurring segment on here. So usually at this point we would jump into Nick's bum of the week, but I know that we had touched on that earlier, so we'll slide right on down to another quick segment here.
Mike's, will it happen?
This is Mike's Will It Happen? So, I let one of my co-hosts ask me a question, and I let you guys know if it will or will not happen. So,
yeah, Mike,
Jeff's week this week. You can go ahead, yeah.
I'll take the lead on this question right now. And this might be for, more for KMO's benefit. I was trying to pull off a trade with him throughout the week, and he wasn't really budging. I rejected a few offers, but my question to you, Mike, is will Chase Edmonds take control of the Cardinals' backfield and be the long-term starter after this week's performance?
It won't happen.
That was Mike's. Will it happen?
All right, moving on from that, we got a little bit of another segment coming up here, which is moving on and starting to look forward. What do we got coming up in the next week? So with that...
Dive on into the Husky League matchups.
So the Husky League matchups, taking a look at the matchups for this upcoming week. And like I mentioned, this this may not get out to you guys till Friday or Saturday, but this is recorded prior to the Thursday games. So, we get to see if we're right or not by the time we're sending this out to a point. So, we're going to start off with a host in-house here, Old Man Joe, taking on the Taint Ticklers and Coach Nick. So Nick's coming into this game as a 10-point favorite. Because it's Nick, Jeff, I'll let you take the lead on this one. What are you looking forward to, and who are you looking to see?
Well, I'm looking at Joe's team right now, and luckily Nick hit it at the right week with both of his starting running backs on bye. So with Mixon being out, Sanders being out, Joe has to play Adrian Peterson, which is not a very good play.
If it was a competition of the oldest running back, he would knock this out of the park.
Yep,
no
I agree
Gore
with
here,
you there. So in looking at this matchup, I'd have to lean towards Nick. Like I mentioned earlier, Russell Wilson and Kamara are two solid top players that are going to win you a lot of games and get you a lot of points. So, I'm not fond of Nick's wide receivers plays right now, but he doesn't have much options.
Yeah.
So.
And to your point, this is really the game of running back woes versus wide receiver woes. Nick's going to be without Galladay and Godwin this week. Coach Stoll has the best running backs in the league, but the 11th best wide receivers in the league. And Coach Joe's on the other side of that. He's got 4 receivers this week that are solid plays. Ayuk is out, unfortunately, but he's got some solid plays outside of that. Nick, what's your key to success this week?
My running backs are back off a bye, which I think will propel me to victory this week against, Joe's suspect lineup with buys and injuries, Ayuk and then his running backs being out. So I think I can pull it off. I mean, my receiving core of Shepard, Chark, and Cobb is not one to be envied. And I'm starting 2 tight ends, I'm starting 1 tight end, and Joe's starting 2 tight ends though this week because of all of his injuries and buys. Henry and Ebron. Yeah, Ebron. I think he'll do okay this week actually against Dallas. So we'll see if he pulls in a touchdown.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at this, I'm taking my bets. I'm putting my money on Coach Stoll. That's the win I'm taking. Nick, who you taking in this one?
Oh, I'm taking me for sure.
Jeff, where are you at?
I got to roll with the tank ticklers.
All right, a clean sweep on the predictions. So we'll look forward to see that. We'll keep track of all of our records and see how we all do. Revisit that next week in our recap. So moving on to the next segment, Ball is Life, and Coach John Lamers taking on I Am Left-Handed and Coach Kyle Monroe. This is going to be a tough one. This is Monroe with a 30-point favorite in this one. So, John's starting a really, really bold lineup here. I saw Swerve Irvin for the Packers in there at running back. Clearly he didn't learn from trying to start A.J. Dillon a couple weeks ago and getting 1 point. Starting Antonio Brown in his first game active, we'll see if he's integrated into that offense right away. I guess Nick, what are you seeing in this one? Who you taking and where's your reasoning?
So looking at John's lineup with Brown in there, I mean, it's a ballsy start, but with Godwin out, maybe he'll do something. I don't know. It is ballsy. I'm gonna go with K-Mo here. His team just every position damn near looks better. So I mean, it's pretty straightforward here. What'd you say? 30-point favorite?
Yeah, it's. But we saw Stank as a 25-point favorite last week, barely squeak it out over our worst
That's
coach
true.
of the week, Jeff. So it's not undoable. Jeff, what about you? You seeing anything else that's going to come into play here?
Yeah, I'm looking at KMO's team with Murray back, Edmonds back, with Drake most likely being out this week. I think Clyde has potential every week to be good. I like his flex play with Harris down there. He had a good week last week. So, I'm on board with KMO winning this one. I think it's going to be closer than the 30 points, but, starting Irvin and Brown, they're kind of shots in the dark, I think, on John's end. So we'll see how it plays out, but KMO's got this win.
Yeah, and I'm right along with you guys. I'm going with Monroe on this one too. He's got the chalky players in his lineup. He's got the guys that you start every week no matter what, and they can all play. John just seems like he's having to dive a little deeper and hope for some things. So just seems like the safer bet here is Monroe, but we will see. So those two were nothing surprising there. I really expected you guys to vote the same way as me on those. But moving on to the Southwestern Bandicoots and Coach Kyle Stankowski against the SCLSU Mud Dogs and Coach Troy Hecht. So Stankowski is actually an 8-point favorite in this one, and this is this is a special one to me because it is
Mike's against the expert's pick.
Are you gonna listen to a big dummy, or are you gonna listen to me?
Yeah, so this is Mike's against the experts pick, the game where I'm picking the underdog. So I'm taking Coach Troy Hecht and the Mud Dogs here to take down Stankowski. We talked about this a couple times. Troy's on a roll. He's playing well. Mahomes and Henry, it's tough to bet against Mahomes and Henry right now. So, Jeff, I don't know if you got anything to add on this one.
I am going to bet against the Mahomes and Henry train that Troy's been on. This week, I think my reasoning mostly comes down to Devontae Adams eats often, and Deshaun Watson. I think he has a sneaky play and is a big quarterback performance here this week. So, looking at Stank's team, he has guys that has potential to put up some big numbers. Troy has been putting up huge numbers week in and week out, and I just think maybe not, but I think this week he falls short. So I'm going with Stank. So
sounds good. Yeah, a little bit of dissent, the first dissenting pick. So Nick, I know you maybe have a special player you want to talk about in this week. You're in this matchup here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my garbage time all-star.
Nick's garbage time all-star.
Yeah, so this segment's basically me picking someone that's going to score a decent amount of points when the game's already over. And that player is going to be Robbie Anderson for Carolina against Kansas City. I think McCaffrey's going to eat early. Kansas City is going to go up big, and then Robbie's going to get those targets late in the game. They're trying to come back, and I flip-flop back and forth on this game. And to right now, I still don't know who I'm going to pick. I think I'm going to have to go with Troy though, because like Mike was saying, Mahomes and Henry. I don't love Thursday night games. I feel like people tend to underperform. So I feel like Devontae is going to take a little bit step back in comparison to the last 2 weeks where he's just gone off. So I think I'm going to pick Troy this week and go with Mike here.
All right. Yeah. And then that's all fair. The Devontae has it going for him that all those running backs are hurt. Maybe he's going to get a couple extra quick passes, a couple extra receptions, but it's tough to keep up that pace. He's had 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. You can't expect that every single week. So, that'll be interesting. So, taking a step on to our next game, we got Grizzly Adams and Coach Alex Cooley against the Aaron Rodgers football team and Tony Fisher. So this it says Cooley as a 3-point favorite in this one. Really, as I look at this, I'm just waiting for the game that Tony's finally going to have Michael Thomas. So, what are we thinking, Jeff? You think he's got Michael Thomas back? You think he's got a shot?
Yeah, I think this is the week that Tony finally gets to roll out his number 1 pick. And, I think Michael Thomas ultimately comes back to life and has the typical Michael Thomas games that you see and had seen all last year. So I have to think with that play with Michael Thomas, it's hard to pick just one guy who makes a win, but I think that pushes him to an easy win over Cooley. Just looking at these two matchups side by side here, I think Swift bounces back. I think Justin Jefferson bounces back. Allen bounces back from last week. All these guys kind of underperform, so I think Tony has a good play. But I do want to mention one player on Cooley's lineup that kind of makes me shift back and forth, and it's Travis Kelce. He had a 20-point game last week, qualifies for a segment we have here, and I think he's going to have another good game this week. I think he's going to be above that 20-point mark, and he is my Jeff's just keep on cooking player of the week. So
Jeff's keep on cooking.
Who wants some man meat? I do. I want some man meat.
If I could get some man meat, it'd be from Travis Kelce, I think. So
that's saying
it's
something.
a stud.
So and I'm with you there. I'm going with Tony in this one. I struggle to see what Cooley's going to do with Mike Davis going down. He's been such a huge part of Cooley's success ever since the McCaffrey injury. It's tough to maintain that now if it's, even if it's a time split, it's just not going to be the same. I really look at this and I'm finding myself wondering if Corey Davis is real, if that's real life, And obviously we have
back from the grave.
We have the trade earlier this year where Tony actually traded Corey Davis over to Coach Cooley, and the Aaron Rodgers football team got an injured Raheem Mostert out of that trade, and also Justin Jefferson. So it's going to be a little bit of a battle to see how that trade works out in real life. Nick, what else are you seeing? Who you going with here?
I'm gonna pick Tony here. Yeah, like you guys are saying, it's the game he gets back on track with Michael Thomas hopefully playing here. Jefferson, I think he's poised to have a huge game against Detroit after a little bit of a dud last week. Will the Lions give Swift the ball? That is the age-old question here. You're giving AP the ball too many times a game, even 2 times more than Swift. It doesn't even make sense. So I think they're going to start giving him the ball more and more. But like you said, Davis in there, it's not going to be a time split. If I was him, I'd remove him from my lineup too. That might shift something a little bit. But yeah, Tony, this is the week that he gets back on track.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but just looking at Cooley's team,
who else do you play?
Who do you put in that running back
That's
to?
True. That's true. Oh, that's brutal.
You could roll with Frank Gore if you wanted.
I can think of many things I'd rather do. So speaking of teams that traded with each other a little earlier in the year and are coming back to play, we move on to our next matchup. Yours truly and the exalted Archduke Fish playing against Benny and the Jets and Coach Ben Stelzer. So Stelzer comes into this game as a 13-point favorite, but I gotta say, guys, I planned this from way early in the year. I traded him Kareem Hunt knowing that this game was coming up and Kareem Hunt would be on a bye. So I just bought myself some free points. I really think that's going to be the difference. But unfortunately, it pains me to say this, it's going to be tough with Dalvin Cook playing Detroit's joke of a defense and Zeke and Jonathan Taylor playing Pittsburgh and Baltimore's defenses. I'm going to have a hard time overcoming that running back disparity. What are you thinking in this one?
Oh, did you say Nick?
Either of you.
Kind of cut out. So I'm gonna definitely take Benny and the Jets here. They've been going off the last couple of weeks too. He has Amendola in his flex, which is a little suspect start, but I still think Cook is just gonna go off once again. Looking at these two teams, I don't know if Cam Newton is gonna get back on track a little more. I know you tried to trade me him earlier in the year, Mike, with that crazy offer.
It was an elaborate deal.
Trading half each other's teams to one another. But
do you guys remember what that was?
Oh shoot, we'd have to pull up the text messages.
It was a lot of it was literally like 3 or 4 of Nick's starters for like 3 of my starters, and first round picks were flying. It was everything.
It was intense.
Yeah, Jeff, as you look at this game, obviously Benny and me, who you taking and maybe why?
I think for the same reason you guys pointed out, I got to go with Benny and the Jets, mostly Dalvin Cook, but also like Will Fuller a lot against the Jags here. And with him being on the trade block, I think he might be upset. And, I believe this is his last year there before he's a free agent. I could be wrong, but I think he wants to ball out the rest of this year so he can get paid elsewhere and maybe move on. So unfortunately, Mike, I think Dobbins is going to have a big week for you, but I don't think it's going to be enough to push you over the top over Benny. So.
And honestly, guys, I know I talked myself down a little bit, but I am taking myself in this game. I look at Cam Newton against the Jets. I'm thinking he can pick up a couple of rushing touchdowns. We all know he can't throw the ball to save his life, but you don't need to do that when you run 15 times. So I'm hoping for that. And like you said, Jeff, Dobbins without Ingram there has looked amazing, and I think he's gonna roll with that. I'm taking myself in this one. I see a couple guys on Benny's team that have a good chance of dropping a dud, and so I'm betting on myself.
Mike, do you think Lockett's gonna go off this week? Seattle tends to go back and forth on who goes off week to week. I feel.
So what I will say is obviously Buffalo's got a shutdown corner that's going to be following Metcalf around. So this is the type of game where you look to your number 2 receiver, and that's really Lockett. So I have faith that he's gonna maybe not get his 3 touchdown performance that he's become so accustomed to, but I do think it's going to be a decent game. I think he's going to get more looks than he did last week. So,
Mike, did you have any question about playing Zeke after the last couple underwhelming performances? I mean, I'm looking here. Did you think about a Taylor Dobbins and then starting another wide receiver and sitting Zeke, or especially with that tough Steelers defense?
Yeah, and it's been considered. It's tough. Zeke is just such a chalky player that if you sit him and you make the wrong call, you feel like an absolute idiot. But if you start him and you make the wrong call, you don't feel so bad about it, because he's one of those guys that's just tough to sit. If DiNucci was still in there at quarterback, I'd probably consider it. But knowing that Dallas is shifting to a more veteran quarterback this week, I'm hoping they can at least open up that game a little bit, so he's not going up against 8-man boxes every time. So we will see.
Who would you start other than him, though? I'm looking at your team.
Yeah, I'd have to go to like a Jacoby Meyer in the flex, or maybe Gus Bus. I could start Gus and Dobbins from the same running back room in the same game. I don't know. That's the tough part. So I got a couple bye weeks. I got two top receivers on bye this week. That doesn't help me. So, but before we spend too much time on that, let's move on to our last game. Jay's Juggernauts and Coach Jeff Gregory here with us today versus Lick McCaff and my Dak and Coach Jordan Chartier. Chartier, the 7-point favorite. It's probably been 4 or 5 weeks before he's been a favorite in any game. So, Jeff, how does that feel to come in as the underdog against the worst team in the league?
Well, this is definitely and by far the game of the week. There's no question about that. So I think a lot of guys and a lot of people will tune in to this game and this matchup. One, because it has a lot of implications on who's going to finish last from the looks of it. So I don't know. I look at McCaffrey coming back and I think, oh, of course, finally he's back. He's going to go off. I'm hoping Aaron Jones from a fantasy standpoint doesn't play tonight, but I'm also a Packers fan, so I hope he's in there and does well. And then really with Golladay probably being out, Marvin Jones looks like a good play. But if I look over at my team, I'm not happy about the running back too being Rex Burkhead, that's for sure. I'm hoping he can get a 31-point game like he did earlier this year. It's in his blood, but we'll see. I got to rely on my big dogs of Jacobs and McLaurin, and hopefully Mike Williams repeats. So
you betting on yourself here, or you betting on Jordan?
Absolutely. I got to bet on myself. I needed this win, so I think we're gonna put a pretty good licking on Jordan, and he'll be falling down to that 1-8 record. So
and I have to admit, I'm gonna have to go the Jeff route as well on this one. When I look at this game and I look at Aaron Jones, looks like he's probably gonna suit up, but that doesn't mean he's gonna play his usual snap count. So I think he's a guy you almost have to play, but he's a guy that's gonna underperform just given coming back from an injury. And McCaffrey the same way. He's gonna be back, but are they gonna give him his 90% snap share? Or do they take a 1 week buffer and give him 60% of the snaps and Mike Davis the other 40? That might cap his upside a little bit. So I'm gonna lean Jeff here. In a game of 2 true toilet bowl players. Nick, where are you leaning in this one?
So it's always tough to pick a team that's starting 2 tight ends, a tight end in their flex position. But shoot, I am this week. I'm picking Jordan to beat Jeff. I'm not going with that upset. I think McCaffrey's going to have a big game. They won't bring him back if he wasn't ready. So, I mean, shoot, even McCaffrey on a 60 to 80% snap count, I take them over a lot of the running backs in this league. So Yeah, your team kind of makes me a little sick, Jeff. I can't lie to you. I don't.
Hey,
Tua, I don't have
two
faith.
a time, baby. 2 a time.
I do not have faith in them. You're trying to say the defense and special teams, which it was last week, but I can't see Tua even have it. I might eat my words later on, but I don't think he's going to go off. I think I'd rather start Matt Ryan, to be honest with you.
Well,
The games I have started Matt Ryan, he's been okay. The games I haven't, he's been an absolute freak. So
build up his trade value on your bench is what you're saying.
yeah, you guys interested?
Tua's the future.
So just to run back through, Jeff, that's probably some bulletin board material there from Nick. Maybe you can rub that in his face next week on the show.
Oh boy,
running back through our
right
picks
now.
here. It looks like all three of us are picking Nick to take Joe down. All three of us are picking Monroe to take down Mr. Lamers. Me and Nick have Troy winning, and Jeff has Stank winning. That matchup of two guys on a hot streak here. We're all taking Tony to beat down Cooley. Cooley being such a bitch just does make it difficult. We got you guys are both picking Benny over me. I'm trusting myself, and Jeff's trusting himself, and I'm riding that train to hell with him. And Nick's going with Jordan to pick up his second win of the season. So, with that all out of the way, we got one more segment left for everybody.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
Shut up, baby, I know it. Absolute guarantee.
So this is the Shut Up Baby, I Know It guarantees. So each of us are going to go around the table quick and give our absolute guarantee for the week. And I'm going to go ahead and seal it with a...
Shut up, baby, I know it.
So as we go through this, I'll get us kick-started here. When I'm looking at my guarantee of the week, really it is what drives myself to pick me over Benny. I personally guarantee that Cam Newton won't disappoint me this week. He's going to come back and have a good game against the hapless Jets. So I'm guaranteeing Cam Newton.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
So Jeff, let's jump over to you. What is your absolute guarantee of the week?
With everyone tuning into mine and Jordan's matchup, there's going to be a lot of focus on McCaffrey, and my absolute guarantee of the week is McCaffrey scores 2 touchdowns this week. I think he comes back and he has a huge game, but I still think I got it.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
All right. Well, Jeff thinks he's got it despite getting destroyed at the running back position. Nick, we'll jump over to you. Your absolute guarantee.
My guarantee is that Tony's going to outscore his last performance of 74 points. I think that's a pretty given. Looking at his team last week, he's having a bounce back week this week. So
what a cheap take.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
Jeez, way to go.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
What a stretch on that one.
Easy. Calm down, Nick.
I'll change mine. I think Tua is going to have more than 10 passing yards.
If we're picking easy ones. All right, well, Nick went out on 0 limbs there, but that does bring us to the end of our show. As we close up here, I just want to go ahead and say good luck to everybody out there, unless you're playing one of us. We will see you guys next time.
Webster's Dictionary defines radish as a swollen, pungent-tasting edible root high in potassium, which can help lower blood pressure. Or more importantly, 3 guys spitting nonsense and talking about fantasy football. Add salt and pepper and chomp into another episode next time. See y'all later.